Moin Leute, herzlich willkommen zu dem Video und zwar New Episode 7 Script Leak The Amazing Digital Circus. Ja Leute, auf jeden Fall gibt es von The Amazing Digital Circus Episode 7 bereits ein Script Leak, Leute, und das ist mega geil. Jetzt schauen wir uns das Video an. Das Video ist von Internet Inferno, lasst ein Abo da, lasst ein Like da.
Not only were we given what we're told is a leak for part of Episode 7's script, but we were also given another potential leak that could be even bigger towards revealing Episode 7's story. We started with this first recent post we were given that was titled Leaked Amazing Digital Circus Episode 7 Script, which went along with part of a scene we're told is meant to show up in the next episode. Starting with this first line, Jax allegedly says to Pomni, "Then we keep walking the tightrope until it snaps. That's the trick, Pomni. You don't stop the joke. You just keep going until the punchline hits." Starting out with a sort of scene of Jax explaining his perception of things, similar to what we saw in episode 6, which continued with Pomni frowning and responding to Jax with, "That's not comforting," to which we're told Jax says, "You're only making the joke take longer, Pom-Pom," to which after that we're told Pomni stares at him, caught between anger and disbelief, before Jax winks, with Pomni then saying, "You are the worst," to which we're told Jax smiles wider. And in terms of what we're told towards if this leaked scene is real or not, it turns out this exact same sort of font used for this part of the script actually matches together with one of the earlier behind the scenes scripts we were given from Gooseworks. While the one she provided was marked up with different highlighter in order to show us which lines she kept in the show and which ones she deleted, as the whole post covered lines she had to trim down for the final cut of an episode, we can see how there's a pretty strong similarity between the specific font chosen for both of the scripts, with the obvious main difference being the bold font being used for the character names in this version while it isn't in the other. But we're also told how this original script Gooseworks provided us was the one she made a long time ago, as it described a scene for episode 3, meaning it isn't unrealistic to think she might have very slightly changed this one detail in order to have the character names stick out better for the actual table reads later on. There was another huge detail about this alleged leak that helped with confirming if it could be legitimate. A specific line in the script that stuck out from the rest, "You're only making the joke take longer," as this same line was what Gooseworks had officially confirmed ahead of time was a line that was 100% gonna be in the next episode, as over on Tumblr it was given to us as a random out of context line, and with many fans of the show assuming Jax would end up being the one to actually say the line, due to him calling himself the funny one and hardly taking any situations in the digital circus seriously, it isn't too crazy to assume that what we could see here could potentially end up being similar to what happens in the show. But it turns out our next potential leak ended up being even more interesting towards the next episode, as it pointed to some dark scenes potentially being involved, as we were given what we were told was an early leak of the audio for episode 7. The original post ended up being titled The Amazing Digital Circus Episode 7 Audio Leak, adding on that the leak didn't have any voices and was music only, which ended up giving us a strange sort of ominous background noise similar to something we'd hear in the NPC Out of Bounds area. This was the original sound. Something that, as we're told, at first sounds like chains rattling or a door closing. This is strange, as all of the doors in the circus generally seem to be made out of wood, and this noise sounds like a metal door instead, implying that wherever this scene takes place, it definitely wouldn't be on the normal level of the circus where we usually see all of the characters. Imagine the scene. Kane opens the exit door, entering and closing it, matching up with the noise we heard, which transitions into the music that starts playing shortly while Kane floats through the office, referencing how in the previous episode, episode 6, we saw how Kane was holding a picture of this same exact sort of place. An office building that we already knew was meant to be a huge deal towards the future episodes of the show lore-wise, as it was originally brought up as the place we saw Pomni go through in the pilot episode while she was looking around for an exit. The same location connected to the CNA company that we also knew was meant to pop up in the future episodes of the show. But the situation got a whole lot crazier as we were told how this alleged audio leak could actually mean bad news for episode 7 instead. and that it could mean Gangle specifically is meant to have a big problem, as many fans of the show pointed out how the original noise at the start sounded more like Gangle's mask breaking rather than a metal door closing. There's a crack at the beginning, maybe her mask, please don't tell me Gangle will abstract, as the sound of her mask breaking with no voices or dialogue during the scene can be meant to tell us how something bad is meant to happen to her. As we've seen in the past, how it definitely isn't a stretch to assume Gangle's mask wouldn't fully stay intact during the episode anyways, as we've seen in many of the previous episodes how it typically tends to break. But how do we know for sure that something could be meant to happen to Gangle in this next episode after all? Well, it turns out this strange sound wasn't actually the first time Gangle's abstraction has been brought up as a possibility. It turns out this idea actually connected to what we were told earlier on from the show's creator, as she left behind little clues and Easter eggs in the show meant to foreshadow what actually happens in the future. And in the case of Gangle possibly abstracting, we were given a very specific detail left behind in one of the previous episodes that many people missed. A scene where we saw Gangle finally let loose after having a stressful shift as the manager during the fast food adventure in episode 4, causing her to look up into the light. A scene that doesn't look too out of the ordinary on its own, but it turns out there's a good chance there's actually more to it than that. The Seeker over on Twitter was able to discover that this same scene secretly had a hidden meaning, that it was likely Gangle looks up at the street light towards the end of the episode, creating a direct parallel with the light that appeared when Kane opened the cellar to dispose of Kaufmel. This foreshadows Gangle's potential future in the same cellar, possibly as an abstracted person looking up at the open light. As we know, the show's creator Gooseworks has been hiding symbolic meanings and foreshadowing in all of her episodes, as fans brought up the idea of other symbolism being included in the show, asking about the symbolism for a different specific detail in the show, if Jax always having his teeth showing was meant to be symbolism that he was always lying through his teeth, as this would match up with what we've seen with Jax as a character pretty well. To which she stated how there's all sorts of symbolism everywhere, but I'm not gonna tell you what it is because that would ruin the fun, implying that there was likely meant to be spoilers also hidden in plain sight that went along with this idea. Spoilers that could very well point to this scene of Gangle looking up at the light, along with the potential sound of her mask breaking in the early audio for the show we were given, actually being used to reveal something bad is meant to be happening to her after all. But it turns out this actually wasn't the only potential spoiler towards the next episode we were given, as we were told that there was a lot more being set up in episode 7 that's meant to make certain fans of the show very upset. But what were these specific scenes that we're told would make fans upset in the first place? Well, outside of them heavily being linked to Jax due to the show's creator already telling us ahead of time how we have yet to see his biggest and likely craziest moments in the show, we actually know a lot more than you might think. It turns out, I'm able to put together everything we're told about the situation for you early into this video right here. So for what we know about the digital circus, make sure to check it out.
So, das war's auf jeden Fall mit dem Video. Ich habe die letzte von mir gesehen, also dass es sehr gut bei euch ankam, also wolltet ihr davon mehr sehen, habe ich jetzt dieses Video gemacht. Wollt ihr von diesen Videos mehr haben? Schreibt es in die Kommentare, ich bin gespannt auf Episode 7 und ja, damit das ist schon Politik.